Hello, everybody. It is Tuesday, July 2nd, 2024. Thank you so much for joining us for episode 95 of the Old Mage MTG podcast. It has been a busy week in Magic the Gathering, Alex. I don't know if you've been following any of the goings on, but as you can see right here, MagicCon was happening in Amsterdam. It looked like a real doozy. I was surprised how many people were there. I guess the Magic Cons are like way bigger than I realized, but like every random person that I seem to follow on my Magic Twitter was hopping a plane and heading to Amsterdam.
Wow.
All the big artists were there, classic artists, content creators. They had pro Magic players. There was a big Pro Tour qualifier. There was a modern 75K. They had Nadu and Shuko hiding around every corner, but we're not here to talk about Nadu and Shuko. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing those names correctly. We're here to talk about some old frame Magic, some old Trix decks from the year 2001, as well as some current pre-modern Trix decks full of old frame cards. Before we jump into more Trix talk, I have a few simple requests for the listeners. If you listen to this podcast and you enjoy, please subscribe to us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever podcast app you might listen to us on. Please give us a rating. Please give us a thumbs up. Also, if you're in the market for any cardboard or cardboard collectibles, and you purchase those cardboard or cardboard collectibles through TCG Player, please consider clicking our affiliate link that we have in the description below. You get the cardboard you want, we get a little percentage. I have a confession to make, Alex. I placed my monthly TCG Player purchase for the month a few days ago, on June 31st, actually. I couldn't wait. I was too excited, so I couldn't officially wait till July. I'm ashamed to say that I forgot to click somebody's affiliate link. I've been really good. I've been clicking other people's affiliate links, so they get a percentage when I buy my cardboard and cardboard accessories. Don't be like me. Be better than me. Click that affiliate link. That's out of the way. We want to move on to segment 1 of the Old Mage MTG podcast. Segment 1 I'm calling The Evolution of Trix. So this is now part 3 in our serial series. That's our series of episodes where we discuss old decks that are named after breakfast cereals. So last week we discussed the original Trix deck. This was the deck that devastated opponents in the year 2000, particularly at GP Philadelphia. If you don't know, the deck is pretty simple. It's designed around a 2-card combo. So there's Illusions of Grandeur from Ice Age. There's Donate from Urza's Destiny, I believe. You cast Illusions. You donate it to your opponent. When your opponent can't pay the upkeep for Illusions to keep it around, they lose 20 life. Hopefully you win the game when that happens. The rest of the deck is all just designed around finding and protecting that 2-card combo. We pointed out last week when we were discussing the original Trix deck that that deck burned brightly for a very short period of time. It didn't slowly fade away after it took down GP Philadelphia. It was swiftly defeated by the Banhammer. So they were key components of that deck: Dark Ritual, Mana Vault, Demonic Consultation, the Mighty Necropotence. They were all banned from Extended in 2000 and 2001, so you couldn't really play the original form of that deck anymore. But this deck did make a bit of a comeback in a revised form in the middle of 2001, and that's what I want to talk about today. The revised deck was interesting to me because it shows how a little bit of creativity can revive a deck after Magic comes in and starts banning all your most powerful cards. You don't have to abandon the deck entirely. Just do a little bit of thinking, do a little bit of digging through the card pool. Yeah, go home, take a few weekends off,
dust yourself off,
relax, meditate, come back stronger. But the other reason I liked it is because the deck that we're going to talk about is almost entirely pre-modern legal. So it can be used as a template if you wanted to play Trix in the pre-modern format, if that's something that interests you. And that is something that interested me which is why I wanted to take a look at this deck. Right now, we're looking at MTG Top 8, Pro Tour New Orleans. In the top 8 of this extended tournament that contained 355 players, we see two different Trix decks. One came in at number 8, piloted by Benedict Klauser. The other one took down the tournament. At number 1, we have Kai Buddha, Blue-Red Trix. And it's almost the exact same deck. Actually, I don't want to say almost. It's the exact same deck. They played the same deck in the tournament. I don't know if I have no idea if they were team members or something and they brought the same deck, or if a couple different people were playing around with Blue-Red Trix and they just ended up with the same exact list. But at least what I see here in MTG Top 8, exact same decks. So I'm going to pull up one and we're going to go through it. It is almost, this is Blue-Red Trix Extended Kai Buddha, PT New Orleans 2001. It is almost entirely a blue deck. It's blue-red, but it's almost entirely blue. It runs red for what looks like, to me, a little bit of creature removal and maybe the ability to Pyroblast a counterspell or something. So I'm going to start with the sorceries. There are 8 sorceries. You have 4 donates, which is a must in the old Donate Illusions deck. And then you have 4 Merchant Scroll from Homelands. This is a good card from Homelands, reappearing in the wild. We don't see these very often. I was looking at this deck. It made me think, man, I haven't picked up my Merchant Scrolls yet. I should have some Merchant Scrolls.
I was just thinking I should
have this card in my collection.
I should start low and like go to Homelands and be like, what are all of the cards I absolutely need from Homelands, all 4 of them. And, like, get my play sets of, you know, Merchant Scroll and Autumn Willow and the 2 other cards I need.
I've picked up very few so far. I picked up my Serrated Arrows playset.
I have some already.
I have 3 Chain Stasis. Don't have a full playset yet. Those are also still very cheap. I picked up Ice and Crusaders. And after looking at this deck, I was like, oh, I gotta get some Merchant Scrolls. I put 2 Merchant Scrolls in my TCG player cart, but they're gonna have to wait until August. I made my July purchases already. So 4 Merchant Scrolls. The scroll will allow you to fetch the bulk of the spells in your deck. So if you don't remember, Merchant Scrolls is sorcery. It says search your library for a blue instant or interrupt. These days, that just means blue instant because all interrupts have become instants. Reveal that card to all players and put it into your hand. Reshuffle your library afterwards. So the next 22 cards in this deck are all instant. So Merchant Scroll lets you get just about everything you might want to get from this deck other than your 4 donates and your 4 illusions. And of course, those are 2 huge targets, but it's also still nice to be able to tutor for 22 of your other spells.
It's sitting at about $7 right now, which I don't think is a bad price at all for, you know, a straight to your hand tutor with some down, you know, with some restriction.
I don't think so either. It's going to be hard to beat that. I mean, they could always print, for all I know, there already is a modern card that's like a blue spell, instant, 1 blue, do the same thing Merchant Scroll does. But, you know, if you're playing Commander or a Singleton format, you're still going to want your Merchant Scroll probably.
Mm-hmm.
Also, that card I described, it might not even exist. I just made that up. I'm just saying there's so much powerful stuff in Modern.
We assume it probably does. But, I mean, for pre-modern or for even for, like you said, Commander, because you need more than one option out of a certain type of card. You know, it's demonic tutor casting cost, you know, similar to that, but and restricted in what you can get. But like, you know, how many good blue instants are there?
A lot.
Yeah,
and they're just going to keep printing them. Your Merchant Scroll is always going to be able to go get them, unless they errated the Merchant Scroll. But that's a big if. So the number one reason to go heavy on blue with Trix in the absence of Necro and Demonic Consultations, because it's the best. I mean, it has the next best set of card draw spells. Of course, like Demonic Consultation's great for getting what you want. Necro was the most powerful card draw spell in the format, but they banned those. So what do you do if you want to make sure you find your combo? I think blue's the next obvious place to go. And the blue instants are full of cards that allow you to manipulate your library or draw through your library. So he has 1 Impulse. He has 2 Brainstorm. he has 4 accumulated knowledge. I don't know if you remember accumulated knowledge, Alex. This is a card from one of those later pre-modern sets that we didn't play with when we were kids. It's from Nemesis. We're still getting to learn a lot of these sets. Accumulated knowledge is 1 colorless, 1 blue, instant, draw a card, then draw cards equal to the number of accumulated knowledge cards in all graveyards.
Oh, okay.
I saw something interesting from the Annals of Gatherer about accumulated knowledge. There was this comment made by Avatar of Ho on the 20th of March, 2011, in the middle of the afternoon, 3:35:27 in the PM. He said, poker great David Williams, also a fairly accomplished Magic player, was disqualified from the 2001 World Championship for having 3 of his 4 accumulated knowledge cards marked. According to judges, they were bent slightly more than his other cards, making them easy to cut the deck to when shuffled. Among other things, it just goes to show how important card draw is to game tempo. So a well-known card, also a famous card because it got a cheat removed from World Championship in 2001. I looked up David Williams. In his defense, he claims to have not cheated. He disputes.
Noted.
He disputes. So I don't know the facts. I wasn't there. The tournament's judging staff determined that the bending was not accidental and that Williams had cheated based on 2 criteria. The first being each time Williams cut his deck as part of pregame shuffling procedure, a copy of accumulated knowledge was on top. Convenient. 2, the judges were able to consistently cut his deck to a copy of accumulated knowledge. So I could see like a pod of judges gathered around the table, each shuffling the deck and cutting, finding that they could easily find the marked accumulated knowledge if they wanted to. Williams did admit that the cards were in fact marked, but he disputed the determination that he cheated by marking them intentionally. He said, yes, they are marked. I did not do that on purpose. I don't know what the whole story was. I think I read somewhere else that he said he borrowed them from somebody. It's possible that he had a friend who was a cheater and he forgot that he was handing his buddy his marked cards that he used.
His friend had all of his cards were bent in one way. The whole deck was just...
Yeah, maybe he had a weird shuffling procedure. So like all his cards get bent. And then when he just gives like 3 or 4 cards to a friend, then you have 3 or 4 bent cards in the deck. It looks like you're doing something devious, but you never know. Anyways, that was from the Annals of Gatherer.
By the way,
what were you going to say?
I'm going to go off on a tangent, maybe. I definitely am. I am.
I'm zoning out already.
Study. Do you know this card, Careful Study?
Yeah. I know the name. I can't remember what it does.
You draw 2. It's 1 blue sorcery. Draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards from your hand.
Okay.
Okay.
What do they call that? What do they call that mechanic nowadays? Looting, I think, right?
Oh, really? I don't know.
I think they refer to that as looting, like draw some number or discard the same number.
Okay. But yeah, I was just gonna say that might be a cool card to run with accumulated knowledge. Because you can set yourself up by putting some accumulated knowledges into the graveyard, and brainstorm is illegal in pre-modern. And I think Careful Study, sometimes people use that as like a brainstorm alternative.
Yeah. That is
just
true.
a thought.
Also combos fairly well with this other card, this other instant.
Intuition?
Somebody pointed that out. Yeah, Intuition.
Yeah, because I was looking at Careful Study versus Intuition in like one deck I was working on.
I know what I would choose for practical purposes.
Intuition?
No, because it's impractical because it's like $150.
Oh, I see. Price being part of the practical.
Yes. Price being the main input then into my practicality calculation. Yeah, it's just practical to put it in the deck. Does it cost $150 a piece? Then no, it's not practical.
Yeah.
People point out it combos with Intuition. I heard a couple people say that. Sorry, Intuition combos well with accumulated knowledge. It's okay. It's okay. Because still,
it's no crazy big deal.
I'd use Intuition to get one of my combo pieces. I mean, that would be my target every single time. Intuition, you go search for either 3 illusions of grandeur or 3 donate, whichever one you need, you know. Yes, you could do accumulated knowledge, but not that great in my opinion, because you have to pay 3 mana for the intuition,
Right.
right?
Yeah. Well, it depends on what you have in your hand already, you know. So if you have part of your combo already, you know, now you can get the other piece and accumulated knowledge in the 3-card pool, and they have to decide what to put in your graveyard.
True, I'll give you that. That's
Maybe.
correct. If I don't need my combo piece and I have intuition, then yeah, I can maybe go get accumulated knowledge or something.
Yes.
But like you pay 3 mana for intuition, you go get 3 accumulated knowledges. You put 2 in the, or 2 go to the graveyard, 1 goes into your hand. You pay 2 more to cast accumulated knowledge. You've now spent 5 mana. And then you will draw a card from the one you cast, plus 1 for each of the 2 in the graveyard. So you draw 3 cards, right? No, that doesn't seem that great.
No.
That's a 2-card bring, like you've.
Yeah, I'd rather go straight for the cards I need. Yeah.
Yeah. But, you know, you could do that if you want to. There's also 4 counterspell, 4 force of will. You have 1 capsize. You have 3 fire and ice, which is a card that I've really been enjoying in pre-modern. Always glad to see that in my hand. Always coming in handy. Seems to always be useful.
And since you only have 1 capsize, I mean, you know, that might be an intuition target too.
Definitely, yeah. Depending on, you know, the board state, that could be a real pain in the ass for your opponent.
Mm-hmm.
Artifacts, 4 sapphire medallions. If you have some of those out already, it makes the capsize a lot easier.
Oh yeah.
The buyback.
I've never played capsize with
You may
sapphire
pay an
medallion.
additional 3 when you play this spell. Yeah, so I'm assuming the sapphire medallion still applies to the buyback. Your blue spells cost 1 colorless less to play. 4 sapphire medallion reduces the casting cost of a lot of your spells. And then illusions of grandeur, 4 illusions of grandeur. So that's the deck, you know. It's the same idea. Cast illusions, donate illusions, but you don't have Necro and Demonic Consultation to find these cards. Instead, you have accumulated knowledge, you have intuition, you have brainstorm, you have impulse, you have merchant scroll to find the things to help you find, donate, and illusions of grandeur. And then you have counter
2000 blue card draw spells.
Exactly.
And intuition for tutoring.
Sideboard. Some interesting cards here in the sideboard. You have Hibernation, an uncommon from Urza's Saga, 2 colorless, 1 blue instant. Return all green permanents to owner's hand. Trying to see what was
commander card.
Yeah, it would be. Trying to see what is in this meta. Blue, white, green control, mono black reanimator.
Oath of Druids.
Probably helps against the Oath of Druids deck. Definitely helps against 3 deuce. Helps against Secret Force too. Secret Force, we haven't talked about Secret Force yet on the podcast. I gotta dig into the Secret Force decks, but I know Verdant Force is in it, and then a whole lot of other
elves and river boas and spike feeders.
All the great green creatures from this era. So Hibernation would really throw a wrench in that game plan. Hydroblast, of course, and then you have 3 Morphlings. So I think what they used to do with the Trix deck actually is if you were playing if your opponent was playing a heavy control deck, a heavy permission deck, it was just full of counter spells, and they were just jamming up your combo all the time. You couldn't cast that. I think what they would do a lot of the times is game 2, you sideboard in the Morphling, because your opponent probably isn't going to have any you're probably going to board out his Swords to Plowshares or anything if he had any in there to begin with. Probably board out the swords when he sees you're on Trix. And then the game becomes like a bit of a counter battle to get your Morphling out. So I think that's what they used to bring it in against a lot. Bring this in against control decks. Decks that can easily disrupt your combo. And then 4 Pyroblast, 3 Pyroclasm. deal with creature hordes. And Stroke of Genius. This is a nice old card draw spell from Urza's Saga. 2 colors, 1 blue X, target player draws X cards. A bit like a Brain Geyser there. When I was looking into other Trix decks after I learned about Necro Donate, I found this and I saw like despite winning PT New Orleans, this also didn't stick around for very long. This seemed like the last hurrah for Blue-Red Trix. And I don't know exactly why. I don't know if some of this stuff that they needed to run just rotated out. If other decks just became a little, new sets were printed, other decks came out, they were just a little too fast for the Donate Illusions combo. I wondered if
maybe more permanent and enchantment removal.
Yeah, could be. I wondered if other things were banned. I don't know if they ever banned Donate or Illusions of Grandeurs. I looked into that. I couldn't find any evidence that Donate or Illusions were ever banned and extended. So I think maybe they just got outcompeted by new decks that people developed with new sets as they came out. I searched Trix on MTG Top 8. I only saw 2 more appearances for Trix. These ones were of the Necro Donate variety in 2002, 2003. One was piloted by Kai Buddha again, and both were in the vintage format, where Necro, wasn't banned. They were just full of Power 9 and then all sorts of variety of, busted, powerful cards. It wasn't till 20 years later that I saw a Trix deck finally appear again on the MTG Top 8, and it was one that was played in the Premodern format. That's where I want to go next. I want to go from Blue-Red Trix 2001 to a Premodern Trix. I found a couple, actually, and the first one I want to talk about is essentially a Dream Halls deck. So I learned a little bit about the Dream Halls decks, or at least one type of Dream Halls deck, when I was doing research for this episode. This deck that I'm going to talk about is essentially a Dream Halls deck, but with the Trix package added as an alternative win con. And I was trying to think about why. I think it just helps you play around certain things that were or still are popular in the pre-modern format. It helps you play around Gaia's Blessing. That'll make sense once I talk a little bit more about exactly what the Dream Halls deck does to kill the opponent. Spoiler alert, it's a mill effect, which Gaia's Blessing ruins, It can also help with Meddling Mage. If your deck is all designed around assembling one particular combo or getting one particular card out, Meddling Mage can really throw a wrench into that game plan, especially if you don't have removal to even ever get rid of the Meddling Mage. That's just game over. Somebody plays a Meddling Mage, names the right card, you're in trouble. So it's always good, especially if you're not running a deck that has Swords to Plowshares or Lightning Bolts or Pyroclasms. It's always good to be able to have more than one way to kill your opponent. Otherwise, you're just too damn vulnerable to the Meddling Mage. You know what I'm talking about, Alex? Alex does. He shook his head yes for the audio-only listeners. When I first scanned the deck list, I was wondering why they were running all these high casting cost cards. You'll see that. Rash of Knowledge, or sorry, not Rash of Knowledge. Rush of Knowledge.
Rush of Knowledge.
It's 5 casting cost. Opportunity, 6 casting cost. And Dream Halls explains all that. It's because it's a Dream Halls deck, stupid. And Dream Halls is an enchantment, 3, also high casting cost, 3 colors, 2 blue. Instead of paying the casting cost for a spell of any color, its caster may choose and discard a card that shares at least 1 color with that spell. If the spell has X in its casting cost, X is 0. So this is a reserve list card. It was only printed in Stronghold. Rating of 4.481 on Gather. Current market price of $21.13, which isn't that bad for like an old card like this on the reserve list that has such a cool and unique effect.
Good effect, unique effect, reserve list, yeah. I've wanted to pick up some of these, but I just haven't felt like spending money on it.
It's like, yeah, when you get to the 20, like you're up at $20, it's like I look at it, I think not too expensive. But I also look at it and say, I am not currently in need of this card at
And
the
I don't want
moment.
to buy a playset of it for
So yeah,
$80.
exactly. So it's like not too expensive if you really want to build a Dreamhouse deck, but still too pricey to just like pick up a playset of and stick them in your cardboard box in your closet.
Yeah.
The rest of the deck, I'm going to start with sorcery. So that's Dream Halls. The rest of the deck is 10 sorceries. You have 3 donate. You have 4 Rush of Knowledge, which is 4 colorless, 1 blue. I didn't know this card. It's a common from Scourge.
I remember the art.
Sorcery. Draw cards equal to the highest converted mana cost among permanents you control. So it's not like the greatest card in the world. It's a high casting cost.
Dream Halls down.
Exactly. It's high casting cost. 4 colorless, 1 blue. To make it worthwhile, really, you want to have at least a 5 casting cost permanent down, probably. And in a Dream Halls deck, if you play Dream Halls, you do have your 5 casting cost permanent down. And on top of that, you can then cast this spell just by pitching another card, so you don't even have to pay the 5 mana for it. So you have a Rush of Knowledge, you pitch another blue spell in your hand, you draw 5 cards if you have your Dream Halls down. So it becomes good in a Dream Halls deck. What's mediocre becomes good, really good in a Dream Halls.
I mean, it's still good below 5 casting cost for the permanent. I mean, if you have a 4 casting cost permanent down, it's still blue 4 for draw 4, right? And you pitch a card.
I compare everything to a Brain Geyser.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm.
So if you have a 4 casting cost permanent down, yes, that's okay. For me, that would be my where I'm like, okay, it's like a Brain Geyser. Because what would a Brain Geyser for 4
I didn't do that conversion yet.
It would be better than a Brain Geyser if you have a 4 casting cost permanent down. Because the Brain Geyser for 4 is 2 blue and then 4, so 6. You have to pay 6 mana to Brain Geyser.
Just, I mean, 4. If you just look at its like regular casting cost, if it were blue and 4 colorless for draw 4, like that would be a good card. Although you do pitch a card, I keep forgetting that, even though it said 3 times.
Well, no, you just pitch that's just if you're Dream Halling it out. If you just want to cast it, if you just want to
I'm still talking about Dream Halling it out. I was just comparing it to the like what's printed on the card for some reason.
A lot of the times it can be slightly better than a Brain Geyser. Sometimes it's going to be slightly worse than a Brain Geyser. Dream Halls, very good. That's how I feel about it. Sometimes better than a Brain Geyser, sometimes worse than a Brain Geyser. Really good in a Dream Halls deck. That's my opinion. How do you feel about that, Alex?
I agree.
Okay. Yeah, I don't want to like I'm not that high on the card, but I don't dislike it either. I feel like I have to defend Rush of Knowledge now. It's a decent card.
No, I mean, it's certainly good in certain situations, as we've just discovered.
Situationally, a better Brain Geyser. I'm going to say the same thing that I've said 6 times already. Situationally, a better Brain Geyser or a worse Brain Geyser.
We worked it out.
Show and tell. You have 3 show and tell. Show and tell, if you don't remember, 2 colors, 1 blue sorcery. Each player may choose an artifact, creature, enchantment, or land card in his or her hand and put that permanent into play. Show and tell was banned when you and I first started playing the pre-modern format. Then it was unbanned. People were really excited. Everybody bought their show and tells. I still haven't seen a lot of show and tell decks appear.
That's what I was just going to ask, is it was banned and then unbanned, right?
It was banned and unbanned. I think people are still playing around with it here and there from time to time. But it's definitely appears that there was no need to ban it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, since it hasn't, been a big deal since they unbanned it.
It's been a
downward price trend.
Goblins are still running rampant. Stifle Knots still trampling people. Terravor still being oathed out. People aren't worried about show and tell. I like it because it can ramp out your dream halls. The other thing it can do is it can play around all sorts of annoying cards that might prevent you from otherwise playing your dream halls, like meddling mage, for instance. Somebody meddling mages and they name dream halls,
you can still show and tell.
You cast show and tell. It
Very
also
good,
prevents them from annulling. Annul the 1 blue counter spell that counters enchantments and artifacts. Somebody knows they're playing against a dream hall deck. They sideboard in their annuls, show and tell it out. Can't annul it.
Not bad, not bad. Anyways. But yeah, you're right. Show and tell for the dream halls then makes the deck even faster. All you need is 3 mana to get the dream halls down, and then you're casting stuff for free after it.
I like that. Sorceries. Sorry, those are the sorceries. There were 10 sorceries. Were you going to say anything else, Alex? I felt like I maybe interrupted you.
I would have kept talking about show and tell, but we don't need. There's no. I'd like to play it in a deck that can steal the things that my opponent brings out for free.
Okay.
Bait them into bringing out their good thing when I play the show and tell, and then I take it. That's all.
Be fun to do with Eureka, too. Instants. There are 20 instants in the deck. Again, you have your 4 accumulated knowledge. You have 1 brain freeze. This is the key to the deck, Alex. This is... I was going to say, I can't remember if this was ever banned in Premodern. I don't think it was ever banned. It's just people weren't really playing it that often. But I now think that some people have maybe played around with the Storm mechanic in Premodern a little bit more. I think Storm first appeared in Scourge. I could be wrong, because we haven't really made it that far. We haven't done a lot of research into Scourge. I know Storm is a very powerful mechanic. I think it first appeared in Scourge. So the thing with Storm and Premodern is, yes, it's there, and yes, you can build Storm decks, but you have a very limited pool of Storm cards to use to exploit the mechanic. Whereas in formats where you have more Storm cards available to you, it's a lot easier to build a crazy broken Storm deck. But Brain Freeze is a card that, I've never played before. I don't see it played that often. It's 1 colorless, 1 blue instant. Target player puts the top 3 cards of his or her library into his or her graveyard. And then it has Storm. When you play this spell, copy it for each spell played before it this turn. You may choose new targets for the copies.
Okay, see where this is going?
Yeah, this is along with Dream Halls, this is the major win con for the deck. You get your Dream Halls. Yeah, you get your Dream Halls into play. You cast some draw spell where you get more than 1 card into your hand. You pitch a card to Dream Halls to play the other card, which will probably also be a draw spell of some sort because you have so many draw spells in this deck. You draw more cards. You pitch something to Dream Halls to play another spell, which again is probably a draw spell. You keep doing that until you can create enough copies of Brain Freeze. So you end by casting Brain Freeze or a Storm count that's high enough to mill out your opponent. I think the way this would work though is you probably need to cast at least a mid-teens number of spells. That's how it worked out in my head.
Yeah, but I mean, also if you get ahead far enough, then you can just keep playing turns if you can keep fending them off too. You don't have to necessarily kill them right with the Brain Freeze. You can still just have 3 turns left where they draw themselves to death afterwards.
It is true. Yeah, I mean, depending on what they're. Yeah, you don't have to wait until you Brain Freeze till you can for sure mill every single one of their cards. You could be like, okay, I can get them down to 5 cards, depending on what deck they're playing. There might be no
you have a feel for what they've already used and what they have left, and you're like, I think this will get me over the finish line.
Yeah. So Dream Hall Brain Freeze. Pretty cool. You also have 3 Cunning Wish.
Okay.
This is the Wish card, 2 colors, 1 blue instant. that allows you to choose an instant from outside the game, reveal that card, put it into your hand, and remove Cunning Wish from the game. This is a good tool to search your toolbox sideboard for whatever you might need. So the sideboard just has an assortment of
color hate or your
almost entirely instants.
Oh, abeyance.
So you have one abeyance in there. You have Arcane Denial, which is an instant. Blue Elemental Blast, which is now an instant. You get your second Brain Freeze in there.
Another Brain Freeze, yeah.
Chain of Vapor, bouncing stuff at instant speed. Hydroblast, instant. Tolarian Winds, instant. Stifle, instant. Rushing River, instant. The only sideboard card that you can't tutor for with your Cunning Wish is Defense Grid. Just bring this in like if you're playing against a counterspell heavy deck. Still not sure how I feel about Defense Grid. I like it in theory. It might be a card that's just unnecessary most of the time.
Yeah. There's so many instants in this deck that you can play your instants preemptively on your opponent's turn so the Defense Grid doesn't hurt you, right? Or the other way around?
Yes. Well, each spell costs 3 more. Well, yeah, I said yes. But it would actually interfere with your ability to
other way
use
around, yeah.
the strength of an instant. Yeah. Good thing you caught that. I wasn't really listening. I was just saying silently. Yes, Alex, that sounds like a good idea.
What have you said?
After the Cunning Wish, we see 4 intuitions. I wrote 3, but it's actually 4. We know what this is good for. Find in the spell that you need at a particular time. For Meditate. This is a card that I think is pretty cool, and I picked up a few because it's not particularly expensive, but I haven't done anything with it. It's 2 colors, 1 blue, instant, skip your next turn, draw 4 cards. In a deck like this, which is a combo deck where you're going to go off.
Yeah.
And kill your opponent or almost kill your opponent in a single turn, it's not so bad that you skip your next turn. Because you're either going to kill your opponent, they're never going to make it. They're never even going to make their next turn. Or in the case of this mill deck, let's say you, like you mentioned earlier, you don't have to quite mill your opponent's entire deck. You just get them down to 2 cards or 3 cards. It's probably not going to matter that they get that extra turn. They'll just draw another card right after they draw the card before that. And they'll be 1 card closer to death.
Mm-hmm.
And then 4X Opportunity. I had never seen this card before. And this is a Brain Geyser for 4. It's 4 colorless, 2 blue, instant. Target player draws 4 cards. What's normally for a Brain Geyser for 4 becomes much better when you can draw 4 for pitching a card with Dream Halls in play again.
Yeah.
You can also use this to force your opponent to draw cards. So let's say you create a certain number of spells on the stack to increase your storm count. You cast Brain Freeze.
It's another mill 4 in effect for your opponent if they're about to lose the game. Yeah.
Exactly.
I like that. And it looks like Kiefer Sutherland.
Kiefer Sutherland?
Yeah.
A little bit. That's Urza, I think. Or is it? No. Is that Urza? No. Urza's always in a much more colorful cloak. And he has longer gray hair. That is Kiefer Sutherland. Or it's Baron Master Wizard. He cocooned himself alone in his workshop for months. When he finally emerged, all broad grins and excited chatter, I knew he'd found his answer. Baron Master Wizard, he's doing something to the weather.
Weird butterfly rhyme.
Artifacts, you just have 4 Lotus Petal. It's a free spell. It's ramp. It can also help you cast Abeyance from the sideboard if you want.
Okay.
And then enchantments, you just have your 4 halls on your 3 Illusions of Grandeur, which is exactly what you would expect to see in the enchantment category in a Dream Halls Tricks deck. So I like that. When I was first looking at this, I was like, what is this deck? I don't understand. I thought I was looking at a Trix deck, and now it's a Dream Halls deck. Well, I like pairing these 2 combos up together.
No, I like it too. I like the crazy drawing and the milling your opponent at the same time. It's like just like draw manipulation on both sides of the coin. Like it.
Yeah. And even if you get Dream Halls out and you don't do the brain freeze thing, Dream Halls can even help you get your combo out faster.
No.
You know, you can normally if you have Donate and Illusions of Grandeur in your hand at the same time, it's going to be pretty hard to cast them on the same turn. Like, you know, because one's 4 casting cost, Donate's 3 casting cost. Even if you have casting cost reduction spells around, you know, sometimes you can't always cast them at the same time. Dream Halls out, Illusions of Grandeur and Donate in your hand at the same time. You can just do them both right on the same turn, as long as you have 2 other cards to pitch to them. And I like the versatility it adds. If your opponent has Meddling Mage or something like that, you know.
Does Dream Halls remind me again? Does it specify what color the card has to be? So it be
Blue. I
card?
believe it says blue.
Okay.
Well, no.
Same color as the spell you're casting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just thinking blue because this is just
I asked because I was wondering if you could pitch the Lotus Petals to the Dream Halls, but there's no other artifacts in the deck, right?
correct. This particular version, just the Lotus Petal.
Okay.
And then the lands, basic. 4 Atakar Waste, 3 Ancient Tombs, 3 City of Traders. You know, these are good lands to have when you're trying to cast an enchantment with 2 or 3 colorless and the casting costs as quickly as possible. It's good to have Ancient Tombs, City of Traders, and you have islands, and you have a couple of tap lands. Saprazan Scary, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Probably not, from Mercadian Masks. This is one of the depletion counters lands from Mercadian Mask. Comes into play tapped with depletion counters on it. 2 depletion counters. You can tap to remove a depletion counter, to add 2 mana to your mana pool. If there are no depletion counters, you sacrifice it. And then a card I wasn't expecting to see, Sivilanite Temple. Sivilanite Temple. I nailed that. Comes into play tapped. Tap to add blue to your mana pool, or tap and sacrifice to add 2 blue to your mana pool. I remember these from Fallen Empires. And you might say, Steve, Fallen Empires is not legal in pre-modern. That is true, but this was also reprinted in 6th edition, which with what I can only assume is the rest of the Fallen Empire tap lands as well. So you can actually play these Fallen Empire tap lands in pre-modern. I just never see them. That's an awful lot of tap lands to have in this deck, though. You have a lot of spells with blue, many of which have even 2 blue in their casting cost. And then you only have 7 lands that can actually tap for a blue on the turn they come out. I don't know though. I haven't play tested this deck to refine the number of tap lands versus non-tap lands that you'd want to run. But I like this deck. Alex, do you have anything to say about this deck? This Dream Halls Trix combo.
Just on your last point, I mean, I think if your path is to really go for the show and tell to get to the Dream Halls, you only need 1 blue.
That's true. You only need 1 blue, and you only need 3 mana.
But you also only have 3 show and tells as opposed to 4. So
you only have 3 show and tells. But yeah, they might help you get to show and tell faster, because you can play one of these on turn 1, and then turn 3, you could play any of your other lands to get the show and tell out. So what did I say, turn 3? You pay any one of the tap lands on turn 1, and then on turn 2, you can play any of your other lands in the deck and be able to play that show and tell on turn 2.
3 mana, turn 3 or more mana, turn 2.
Or more mana.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe that makes me think about it differently. If your desired early play is turn 2 show and tell, let's get that out fast. Another one. I have one more pre-modern Trix deck that I want to show you. This one's very straightforward. It's just straight up pre-modern Trix. It's very similar to the blue-red one, we saw from Extended, except there's no red in it. It's mono blue. And it's just
Going hard.
designed to draw through your deck with all these blue draw spells like Intuition, Impulse, Accumulated Knowledge, Sleight of Hand in this case. To find your donate and your illusions, your counter spells, counter magic like Arcane Denial counter spell to protect that combo, and then some medallions to reduce your casting costs. Very straightforward, mono blue, card draw, counter spell, combo deck.
Yep.
Not much to say
I like
here.
that counter spell, by the way. Why don't I ever use that?
I don't know, Alex. I don't know.
It's not a bad one.
It's not at all.
The Mercadian Masks counterspell art.
If you followed Old Mage MTG on Twitter, Threads, or Instagram, you would have seen that a month or so ago, I purchased my first pre-modern playset of Counterspell because I didn't have a pre-modern playset of Counterspell. I had like 3 revised Counterspells from back in the day. And this is the art that I chose because I also really like this one.
You didn't have like any other counterspells?
I guess
you threw away all your commons and uncommons.
Yeah. I had 3 revised counterspells. I'm sure I used to have Ice Age counterspells, and now I'm going to have to buy them again because it's the second pre-modern playset counterspell I want.
I have a bunch of those old counterspells from around that, 4th, 5th edition era and different expansions.
No, I don't do 4th, 5th edition.
Yeah.
Don't do it. I'm a snob when it comes to 4th, 5th edition. I'm like those guys that are like 2 years older than us that just opened up a bunch of like beta and unlimited. And they're like, I can't play with that shit revised. And
no, I'm the same way. I don't play with any 4th edition if I can avoid it. If I had like, only a 4th edition, like Mana Vault or something, some of my like Birds of Paradise and Sylvan Library. Or 4th, 5th, I forget. Some of those cards are 4th and 5th edition. I forget which ones.
Okay, yeah. There's passes given for Sylvan Library. I also have the reprint Sylvan Library. But when we're talking
the old counter spells, okay, I have Ice Age counterspell with the lady, just like that.
Mm-hmm.
Got
Nene art.
Tempest.
I think is that Nene art.
L.A. I can't see it on my screen. L.A. Williams. It looks like.
Oh, okay.
Tempest. I don't know if I even have this. It's like a wizard getting like zapped with some Blu-rays.
I don't love that one. Yeah.
Another one, the Mercadian Masks we just talked about. I didn't even know the 5th edition or 6th edition one. I don't remember that at all. Yeah, I guess that's about it then from that era. I thought there were more counter spells with different arts from back then, but I guess I'm wrong.
Yes, you are, Alex.
Oh, well,
there weren't that many. Yeah, L.A. Williams. Ice Age counterspell. Damn it. Damn it. But that's it. That's all I have to say about this pre-modern Trix deck. It was straightforward. And if I do play pre-modern Trix, it'll probably be something very similar to this because it'll be more affordable to build. Of course, I won't have the intuitions in either this version or the Dream Hall version. But now
Dream Hall version, that looked fun.
I do too. Yeah, but it's going to be a while before I pick up 4 Dream Halls. But otherwise, like a Trix deck isn't that expensive to build, especially with all the medallion reprints that have happened lately, which I'm very excited about. When we first started playing again, this is one of the things that I went on and on about ad nauseum. I wouldn't shut up. I kept going, how have they not? It blew my mind that they had not reprinted the Tempest medallions. They had not reprinted them.
Yeah.
Since, well, there might have been one earlier.
Obvious choice, you would think.
Yeah, I remember thinking, oh, I thought these would have become just like almost a staple in Magic post Tempest. And they had just been printed in Commander 2014. That's what it was. And then since we've been playing again, Commander Masters and now Modern Horizons have come out in like the past year or so with medallions in them. But I remember it was like 2022 and we were looking at the medallion prices. I couldn't believe it. And it was like, damn, they haven't reprinted these for almost a decade. Like it was just a card that I thought they would have reprinted. The Sapphire Medallion was $50 in 2021.
I was gonna ask. I thought they were like I was gonna say $40 or something back
Yeah, they were
then.
like they were like 25 to $50 depending on the medallion.
Yeah, Sapphire more expensive, probably.
Yeah. And the one that I wanted the most for decks like this, for building big blue decks. It's a great addition to any big blue deck, and there's all sorts of big blue decks that are exciting to build. And Sapphire Medallion's like the best casting cost reducer for the big blue deck. The BBD, as some say. That's it. That's it for Premodern Trix. That's it for blue-red Trix, then Premodern Trix. I don't know if I said this, but that was actually 2 segments. Segment 1, blue-red Trix, a continuation.
I think you mentioned that we were on to segment 2, I think.
Okay.
I knew.
A continuation of the extended Trix.
I'm ready for segment 3.
Extended Trix. Segment 2 was the Premodern Trix that we just talked about. The Dream Halls Trix and the standard big blue deck Trix. Now we're on to segment 3 of the Old Mage MTG podcast, which is...
This one looks good. I like it.
What is always the last segment of the Old Mage MTG podcast. It is the Old Mage Commander Corner. And today we're going to do something very similar to what we did last week. We're going to talk about 5 underrated commander cards. Last week we talked about 5 underrated commander cards from Mirage. This week we're moving on to Visions, and we're looking at the same series of articles that was printed on the Card Kingdom blog, or published, I should say, on the Card Kingdom blog. It's just a website. I don't believe there's a print version of the Card Kingdom blog. There's definitely not. When I say I don't believe there is, I know there's not. So it's published, not printed. And it's written, just like the last article we talked about, by Jacob Lackner. This is Nitzahon of Nitzahon Magic on YouTube. He has a giant and really fantastic Magic the Gathering channel on YouTube. And he lists 5 cards from Visions, one of our favorite old sets, that he believes are underrated in Commander, that don't see much play in Commander, but he thinks they should, and I'm inclined to agree with him, actually.
Is it true what it says there, that Visions introduced Enter the Battlefield effects? I would have immediately claimed that was wrong, but I haven't thought about it.
Where were you for our Enter the Battlefield effect episodes that we did on Visions? We did 2 episodes. 2 episodes.
But didn't introduce it. That's what I'm saying. It was not in the game at all.
I will say to you, I don't remember what I said during those episodes. I don't remember if I also in those episodes said that these were the first Enter the Battlefield creatures in Magic the Gathering. I do feel like we had a conversation about that, though. And I can't remember if we gave the definitive answer, or if we just went back and forth and were like, were these just very early Enter the Battlefield creatures, or were there any other Enter the Battlefield creatures in Magic the Gathering before this? I don't remember exactly what we said. But I will say that Nitzahon, aka Jacob Lackner, is a Magic historian. So are you questioning his research?
No. I don't question people. No.
You just can't believe it. You're just shocked to hear that.
Yeah. Yes. It was an expression of shock rather than a questioning of authority.
It also introduced Enter the Battlefield abilities. I mean, I remember that was like the thing from Visions. That's what I remembered most. That's why we did multiple episodes on it. Yeah, Ictobi Orangutan.
I thought of flanking.
What?
With Visions and
Manowar, Necrotol, Shrieking Drake. I talked for 45 fucking minutes.
I remember all these cards and I loved them, but I didn't necessarily think like, this set is about Enter the Battlefield effects.
I talked to you for 45 minutes about Shrieking Drake, and you just sat there and pretended to listen to me.
I like Shrieking Drake.
Anyways, we're not talking about Shrieking Drake today, or Ictobi Orangutan, or Necrotol, which he shows right here at the top of his article. These are ones that people know. We're also not going to talk about Vampiric Tutor, Relentless Assault, Necromancy, Natural Order. We're going to talk about some lesser known cards from Visions, starting with one that we've actually talked about for other reasons on the show already. Here we go. Old Mage, we weren't even the Old Mage MTG podcast yet. Old Man Magic podcasts episodes 28 and 29 enter the battlefield creatures of Visions, part 1 and part 2. I'm looking through our old show notes, Alex. Yeah. You can't remember. You just don't remember that far back. Before that, episode 27, I've titled WOT Censored a Wiener. That's what I titled it in our show notes. I don't think that was the title that I published it with on YouTube, though. Enter the battlefield effects. Okay, I'm going back to our notes. When I think of Visions, I think about solid, cheap creatures. Today, I want to talk about a set of creatures with enter the battlefield effects. Then I said, I don't really know if these are the oldest enter the battlefield creatures, but they are the first that I remember.
Okay. All right.
But they're the earliest ones I can remember. And if Jacob also says they're the first, I think they probably are the first. I think this was the beginning of it. Utabi orangutan. I also considered bull elephant. Maybe I shouldn't have. It's in our list because it's more of a cost when bull elephant comes into play. Return to forest you control to owner's hand or bury bull elephant. Goblin recruiter. That's an enter the battlefield effect. Comes into play, search your library for any number of goblin cards, Knights of Mist, Alex. This is a flanker, which you said you remember. But also when Knights of Mist comes into play, pay 1 blue or bury target knight. Which doesn't sound great, but apparently there was a time in Magic and like the standard format where there were lots of knights fighting back and forth. So like Knight of the Mist could actually turn the tide. You'd play your Knight of the Mist and you'd bury their knight. Because it doesn't say bury your knight, it says bury target knight.
I see, okay.
Anywho. Back to Retribution of the Meek, which is the first underrated commander card from Visions that we want to talk about.
I love it.
It's really good, and he brings up a point that I hadn't really thought about before. So, Retribution of the Meek, it's 2 colorless, 1 white, sorcery, bury all creatures with power 4 or greater. Okay. First and only printing in Visions reserve list, 4.271 on Gather, current market price of $5.75. Never got that expensive. It was definitely more expensive than this, and it's come down a lot, like a lot of the reserve list cards from Mirage and Visions did. They've come down quite a bit since the 2021 craziness.
The times.
I saw this back in the day. You saw this back in the day. Pretty much everybody that saw this back in the day. What do you put this in? When you play white and it's 1997 and you see Retribution of the Meek, what do you put it in?
White Weenie deck.
White Weenie deck. That was the obvious. That's all I've ever thought about it for. That's what I've used it for. But I like the idea of using this as a sweeper with a couple of different commanders that he highlights here. So he says, sweepers are great in Commander. Paying 3 for 1 is especially amazing. Can't hit all the creatures. There will be times where small creatures are your biggest problem and it can't deal with them, but there are also many board states where this does what you need it to do, especially if you play it in a deck that is made up entirely or almost entirely of creatures with less than 4 power. Okay. But this is what I didn't think of. And that's probably because, the commanders he highlights here don't exist in the old frame card pool, so I'm not familiar with them. He says, for example, if you're running a high toughness commander like Arcades the Strategist or Doran the Siege Tower, there's a good chance that Retribution will be hurting your opponents or having very little effect on you. So these are commanders that have low or no power and high toughness. Arcades the Strategist is 1 colorless, 1 green, 1 white, 1 blue, legendary creature, Elder Dragon. Flying in Vigilance. Whenever a creature with a defender enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. Each creature you control with defender assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power and can attack as though it didn't have defender. So that's awesome.
So
You
it's
can
all
fill,
toughness deck.
yeah, a toughness deck. Door in the Siege Tower is similar. One white, one black, one green. I have seen this guy before.
Yeah, I've seen this before. It's a cool card.
I'm excited about it. It was first printed in Lorwyn, I believe. And it makes me want to build a Tree Folk deck as my next commander deck. We'll see if that happens. But he's a legendary creature, Tree Folk Shaman, 0/5. Each creature assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power. So, it shares one of Arcades' abilities. Toughness deck. You build a toughness deck. Creatures with big fat asses. And you have these commanders out, and then they attack right with their fat asses. Right?
Sure.
They booty bump your opponent. They're immune to Retribution of the Meek, can still deal a lot of damage. I like a commander with a fat ass. Do you have anything else to say about Retribution of the Meek, Callie?
Forgotten Ancient. This is just like really random. I know there's plenty of other cards that could work and would have good synergies with this. But for some reason, I just thought of Forgotten Ancient, which I like because you get to shift your counters around between creatures. You can build up some counters and then you can spread them out onto your other small creatures. So if I have a bunch of 1/1s or whatever, before I Retribution of the Meek, I can spread out my Forgotten Ancient +1/+1 counters onto my smaller creatures, and keep it alive, and they all stay alive, but everything gets buffed.
Okay. Moving those counters around. That is a good idea. And I was looking at something just the other day. I can't remember what it was, but it was something that allowed me to move the counters around, or I at least had the question, oh, can I move those counters around to anything? And stuff like that would be good with Retribution of the Meek. Get your creatures up just to
yeah, just where you want them to be.
What was it? And then when you bring out your next weenie, then you start moving the counters onto him or her instead. Until they are 3 power. Then you just transfer them to other things. Okay, I like that. Next underrated commander card from Visions. Crypt Rats. Crypt Rats is 2 colorless, 1 black, 1/1 summon rats. Crypt Rats deals X damage to each creature and player. Spend only black mana in this way. First printed in Visions, also in 7th edition in Modern Horizons. 4.238 on Gather, a current market price of 49 cents. This is a super good card that I always overlook, mostly because I don't really play black. He says it's a super good card. It's actually a super good card that people are overlooking. I agree with him. It is a super good card. I do overlook it. It's apparently heavily played in Pauper. He points that out. I just like that. I like essentially a creature wipe on a stick. It does kill itself, but you just have it sitting there and you can activate it when you want. I like that the mana does have to be black. Sorry. So you pretty much play it in a mono black.
Yeah, heavy black or mono black.
Mono black.
I feel like I overlooked this because it was 3 casting cost for the 1/1. But I'm having trouble remembering this card based on the art, and it's a common, so I must have had some of them.
I know I definitely did. Yeah.
I must have just, I don't know, put it aside because it was 3 mana for the 1/1, and then plus it was, it deals it to everything, so you have to play around that. But now I'm looking at it and I can see an upside to this card. I can see being useful.
Just options. It's nice to have. There's so many token-based decks nowadays. It's nice to have more than one effect in your deck that you could use to wipe out an army, to have like an earthquake type effect or something. So I like that. I like a board wipe. It can clear out targets large and small. That's what I wrote down. The next card has always been an interesting card that I've never, ever had any use for. I have one of these sitting in my box. I pulled it out of a pack. when I opened the Vision pack in high school, and it's just I've never done anything with it. It's Anvil of Bogarden, 2 colorless. Artifact, each player skips his or her discard phase. During each player's draw phase, that player draws an additional card and then chooses and discards a card. First and only printing in Visions, because it's reserve list. 3.938 on Gather. Current market price of $31.24. So people do buy it up. Only played in 0.031% of decks on EDH Rec.
Wow.
Shockingly low. Although I don't know what I'd do with it. I never had any use for it, like I said. But he does point out a few commanders that I didn't know about until I read this article that actually work really well with the Anvil. They interact in a pretty cool way. The first one is Tiny Bones, Trinket Thief, 1 colorless, 1 black, 1/2 legendary creature, skeleton rogue. At the beginning of each end step, if an opponent discarded a card this turn, you draw a card and you lose 1 life. You can pay 4 colorless and 2 black. Each opponent with no cards in hand loses 10 life.
Yeah, that works really well with the Anvil.
So, yes, you have to discard a card too, but when your opponent discards a card, you draw a card. The second one is Turgrid, God of Fright, 3 colorless, 2 black, 4/5 legendary creature god with menace. Whenever opponent sacrifices a non-token permanent or discards a permanent card, you may put that card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. So they take a card, they take a card with a symmetrical effect, right? And they now give you a benefit every time your opponent has to is forced to discard the card from the, by the Anvil. So
yeah. And Tiny Bones is like that too, but it's more randomized because it's just drawing a card. So drawing cards is great, but I love I have a soft spot for cards like this where I get to steal my opponent's stuff.
It's nasty. Yeah, I mean they could play around it because with the Anvil they get to choose which card they want to discard. But at the same time,
right.
I mean,
it's
not like
keep happening over and over again, and you can steal some small stuff. It's funny that you pulled this up because when we were just looking at Anvil above, a thought I had was I should really try to play this with Reanimate.
Okay.
Because they're pitching stuff, and like you said, they might not pitch their big giant creature that's awesome, but also they might because they're like, oh, I can't cast this right now,
They might.
and I'll get to it later. I'll reanimate it myself, or I just don't need it, and they get rid of that thing, and then I get to take it from them.
Possibility. Never thought about that because I never play. I've never played a Reanimator deck. Add that to my list of decks to build, but
I keep trying to splash Reanimate into other decks. That's what I keep trying to do because I want to like steal my opponent's graveyard creatures.
But I like this, and this is a reminder to me. Every time I see a card that has a symmetrical effect, think to myself, there's probably a commander out there that can exploit that effect and make it asymmetric. That's the Anvil. Oh, also Shieldred, the Apocalypse, which this is a card. I don't know. This is a card I used to see everywhere. I'm not in. I don't really pay much attention to the modern format. So, but when I say I'd see it everywhere, it's like I was always seeing people post it online. I was always seeing it in modern deck picks, and I think it's pretty expensive.
Yeah, I see people like posting it as a big pull.
Yeah, that's what I would see too.
From 1 or 2 sets back, whatever.
It is 2 colors, 2 black, legendary creature, Phyrexian Praetor, 4/5 Death Touch. Whenever you draw a card, you gain 2 life. Whenever an opponent draws a card, they lose 2 life. So again, it makes the effect of the Anvil asymmetric.
You're drawing 4 when you draw, and all your opponents are losing 4 when they draw.
Okay. Okay, Alex. Brood of Cockroaches. That's the next one. It is 1 colorless, 1 black, 1/1 summon insects. If Brood of Cockroaches is put into your graveyard from play, Pay 1 life and return Brood of Cockroaches to your hand at the end of turn. First and only printing in Visions, 3.119 on Gather, a current market price of 32 cents. So I love that he highlights several, well, 2 extremely cheap commons in this article instead of just picking like the most expensive reserve list cards from Visions. He's like, here's some cheap cards that you can play in your commander deck that I think are underplayed. So this is a 2-mana 1/1 that can keep coming back if you pay 1 life, and then you have to pay another 2 mana to play it out. It's not the best just on its own. But he points out 2 legendary creatures that you can run it with. First is Grist the Hunger Tide, 1 colorless, 1 black, 1 green. This is a planeswalker. As long as Grist the Hunger Tide isn't on the battlefield, it's a 1/1 insect creature in addition to its other types. And then you got all this weird planewalker stuff that I can't remember. These loyalty counters. We talked about this once before. More than once. I block it out of my head because I'm not interested.
Yeah.
But here's this. This is the ability that I think is most relevant to a creature that you can continuously bring back to your hand. -2, you may sacrifice a creature. When you do, destroy target creature or planeswalker. So when you have a commander like Grist out, it doesn't even have to be your commander. I mean, it could just be in your deck. When you have a creature like Grist out, any creature like Brood of Cockroaches that you can continually bring to your hand becomes a destroy target creature spell.
Yeah.
Destroy target creature per planeswalker. Pretty good. Amzu Swarm's Hunger, 3 colorless, 1 black, 1 green, 3/3, legendary creature, insect, shaman, flying menace. Other insects you control have menace. Whenever 1 or more cards leave your graveyard, you may create a 1/1 black and green insect creature token, then put a number of +1/+1 counters on it equal to the greatest mana value among those cards.
Oh, sweet.
Do this only once each turn. So the Brood of Cockroaches goes to the graveyard. You can do this every turn. You can bring the Brood of Cockroaches back to your hand for what? 1 life?
Yeah, and it makes a 3/3. Is that what happens
1 life.
there?
And then it makes a 1/1 insect token that you then put 2 +1/+1 counters on it. It makes a 3/3. So every turn you can make a 3/3 for 1 life.
I love it. I love that it's a legendary insect shaman.
Yes.
That's super cool.
Now you have to play it out too. So it's not just 1 life. You have to pay 2 mana to play it again. And then you have to get into your graveyard. It has to die. So you need to either play it and then have a sack outlet to keep doing that, or have some way to continually pitch it. Maybe you run a Anvil of Bogard. Maybe you have an Anvil of Bogard on Amzu Swarm's Hunger Brood of Cockroaches deck. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Maybe I go all out with this Needs a Hone article. I play a Grist, Amzu, Anvil, Brood of Cockroaches deck. Alex?
I'm thinking.
And then maybe I add this
next spell. Did you say this already? If you have something that you can pitch? You were talking about sack outlets, but what about pitching from your hand? Like if you had like a putrid imp, you could discard your Brood of Cockroaches.
Yeah.
And then cycle it back and then discard it again and cycle it back.
That's why I mentioned the Anvil, because this also has a discard effect.
Oh, yeah.
Chooses and discard a card. But yeah, whatever imp you said is also a black card, right? So imp, Anvil of Bogarden, Grist, Brood of Cockroaches.
Or something like there's some blue cards that there's a Merfolk that lets you
loot. Merfolk Looter.
Might be.
Which we talked about looting earlier. Looting, draw 1, discard 1, draw 1, discard 1, loot.
It's not the one I was thinking of, but more or less, yeah.
Okay. That's what Merfolk Looter does, right? Do you tap it, and then you draw a card, and then you choose and discard a card?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, I'm so good. Exodus.
Yep.
I'm learning so much, Alex, and it's sticking in my head. I'm going to become a force to be reckoned with in the Magic the Gathering world. There's going to be so much knowledge in this brain after 3 years of podcasting. I'll take you to the top with me, Alex.
How do we stop forgetting all the stuff we learn?
I'm doing
Waterfront
pretty
Bouncer
good.
is what I was thinking of.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, hey, I was just reminding you what looter was earlier in the show. I was reminding you that we did 2 whole damn episodes on Enter the Battlefield creatures and visions. I could not forget exactly what I said, but that's why I have the show notes that I referred to.
Waterfront Bouncer taps and you pay a blue to discard a card from your hand, and then you bounce a creature, target creature to its owner's hand.
Okay. Could do that. That's blue. You have to
Blue, yeah. Blue.
Yeah, blue.
Okay.
I'm
People start talking about commanders, and I automatically I'm like, but they don't have to be your commander. They could just be a card in the deck, and you could have a different color profile for your deck. You know what I mean? Be black, green, blue with a different commander, and Amzu is just in there too.
say that again. If Amzu's in here, your commander has to have black and green.
Yeah, I'm saying your commander could be black, green, blue, and
Oh,
Amzu
okay.
could just be in the deck and not be the commander.
Yes. What is a black, blue, green commander? That would be, I don't see that very often. I don't see that color.
Yeah, that's not a super popular color
Yeah.
combo probably, but there's
Even
probably
just
some.
outside of commander, I'm like, I don't see like blue, black, green decks like ever. It got me thinking. I'm on Scryfall now. I wonder if there's got to be a blue, black, green commander, right? There's got to be at least one.
Sure.
Blue, black, green, exactly these colors, type lined. I'm just going to write legendary. I'm going to see what shows up. Why am I not doing this on the show? Here.
We are on the show.
I know, but I mean, why am I not showing what I'm pulling up? I'm curious to see how
That
many,
I don't know.
because I never see black, green, blue. I never
I'm
think
thinking
about
back
this.
to just like legends. I feel like even back then there's like one or two. Like I'll say the wrong names though.
I never think about this color combo, so it just
I don't either, actually. I never make blue, black, green decks.
it got me interested
But
right
I
now.
should. I should. There you go. Lots of them.
There's 24.
A bunch of Jurassic Park ones, apparently.
Yeah, when you consider the number of commanders there are in the world of Magic the Gathering nowadays, 24, it doesn't seem that like that many, but there's a big old turtle. There's a turtle shaman. That's cool.
It's the turtle from Kung Fu Panda.
There's a nightmare beast elemental.
Tortoise.
There's a gorgon wizard, and a rogue ooze with a fucking cowboy hat. So you know what set this guy's from.
We play? What is this?
It's a children's card game, Alex. This is just the kind of things you're going to see in a children's card game sometimes.
Don't say that.
I know I trigger some people when I say it's a children's card game, but just, be honest. Be honest about what we're doing here, people. Yeah, there's Jurassic Park cards. An elf advisor, an elemental avatar in the form of Moldrotha, the grave tide.
Big old grave tide.
There's a rat shaman.
Samurai rat.
That's pretty cool.
Rat ninja.
The human rogue, that's very boring compared to a rat shaman. There's this.
Yes. John Carpenter, The Thing.
It looks like Krang, right?
Yeah.
But
Ninja Turtles.
he's been, I don't know what. He's been like somebody cast a spell on him to turn him into a tree folk of some sort. He's an artifact creature mutant. Naga shaman. That's pretty cool.
That's sweet.
Sidisi brood tyrant.
I like that.
What does it do? Whenever it enters the battlefield or attacks, mill 3 cards. Whenever one or more creature cards are put into your graveyard from your library, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. So she could be a reanimation zombie.
Yeah, that's right up my alley.
There's a vampire. Oh, Trimi the Ever Playful. That looks cute.
Upside
It's
down.
pretty cute for a nightmare beast.
Cheshire Cat Nightmare.
I've heard of
Mimeoplasm. Yeah, that's yeah.
Have you heard of that? I thought I've heard of it too.
I have heard of that as well, yes.
The Mimeoplasm, the Wise Mothman, Bullwrath, the Shape Stealer. We got a dragon here, Borush the Hunter. Okay, you got some pretty cool. You got a human fungus pirate. This might be the only this is the best human fungus pirate in the game of Magic the Gathering. I will die on that hill. Xavier Sal, Infested Captain, #1, human fungus pirate. And that's it, 24. So you have some options. Old
Cordyceps Buccaneer, that guy.
We have some options. And then the last.
But no old school ones. There were no old school. We didn't find any from old legends. Nuts.
That is a good point, and that explains exactly why when this all started, I was like, are there any blue, black, green commanders?
I thought there might have been one of like the bad ones, you know, but
yeah, no,
none that I could remember.
So that's why it seemed like such an unusual color combo to me, because this just wasn't this color combo wasn't a thing in any of the formats that we played in these old frames.
I feel like they've tried to deliberately, you know, make commanders of all color combinations, you know, just to open it up for everyone.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is cool, I want that option. I want to be able to play whatever color combo I decide on.
Purists might be angry about that for color pie reasons or something, but I get it.
You've always been allowed to. You've always been, since the very oldest days, you've been able to combine red and blue and red and white, and just
yeah, you could do whatever you want when it came to combining individual cards into your deck, but
yeah,
you're just seen, it hasn't always been the case where they would print 3 color cards of every color of every possible trio. City of Solitude, Alex. This is the last one that he mentions, a card we've talked about many times. There's not a whole lot to say about this. It's just a card, one of several from the Mirage Visions era that I've always looked at, and I've always been like, should I play this card? I just never really end up playing it. It's 2 colorless, 1 green enchantment. Each player may play spells or abilities only during his or her turn. Only printed in Visions because it's reserve list. 4.435 on Gather. Current market price of $11.23. Jacob asks, are you tired of blue mages countering all your spells? Why, yes, Jacob, I am. How did you know that?
Yes.
I am tired of it, which is why maybe I should start playing City of Solitude.
So back in the 90s, I assembled 3 or 4 of these, partial playset, most of a playset, because I was sick of blue people countering my spells. I was like, I just gotta do something.
Any one person in particular?
Probably you.
Me, really? I don't remember.
Yeah, okay. Well, yeah, no one in particular, really. It was just there were a lot of counter spells getting flung around. It's like my stuff's always getting countered if I'm not playing blue.
I thought maybe this was going to be a rant against Ryan's blue deck.
Oh no.
Okay.
No. just general blue hate. I was like, I got to do something about this.
I get it. Yeah.
So I started, putting these together, and now I have them, and I don't ever slot them into any of my decks. Now I feel like there's always something else different I want to do. So I'm not sure how I feel about it. Like back then I loved it as soon as I saw it.
Yeah.
And now I'm kind of like, I've moved away from it. I'm kind of like, I don't know if the downside is what bothers me. I want to be able to play.
Do your abilities.
Yes. I want to be able to play giant growths and stuff.
Yeah.
At instant speed. So I guess I should get rid of my Cities of Solitude maybe, because I don't know if I'm ever really gonna play them. Uh,
Never.
but
Never
they're a little
sell.
dinged up, so I'm like I don't want to sell them because I won't get like good money
Never
for them.
sell.
So
You die
so I
with
just
this
have like
cardboard, Alex.
Cities of Solitude that I'm just sitting there.
It is buried with you. We're going to embed it in. What can we embed it in? What was Han Solo embedded in? You know this. I know this too, but I can't think right now because I'm tired.
Carbonite, is that the right word?
That sounds right.
All the nerds will angrily yell at me
Oh
for saying
man,
that.
listen, I'm not really a Star Wars nerd, you know?
I
It
kind of am,
wasn't.
but I've gotten away from it from it's been years since I've watched any Star Wars, really.
I was telling somebody this the other
Carbonite.
day, and he couldn't believe it, and I'm like, it's the truth. So I was never really a Star Wars nerd. I don't say I will never call myself a Star Wars nerd, because to call yourself a Star Wars nerd implies that you know way more about
Oh
Star
yeah,
Wars.
yeah.
Like, I
I would
mean,
never do that.
I was just a kid who saw the Star Wars movies.
Oh,
And then episode 1 was announced. And then I know I went to the theater to see it with you. It might have
we
been
did
some
it.
other.
We waited in line.
I was telling somebody at work not that long ago. I was like, I was there
We were there.
opening night. I was like, we skipped school and we slept in the parking lot in a tent the night before. It was very fun. That part of it is a good memory. The movie was so fucking terrible. Episode 1 was such absolute dog shit
I will.
that I walked out of that theater and I said, I am never watching anything Star Wars related ever again for the rest of my life. And I have not. And they're like, you didn't watch The
Wow.
Mandalorian? I'm like, I'm out.
Wow.
You fucked
Wow.
me so hard,
See,
Lucas.
I'll give someone another
I'm out.
chance. I mean,
No,
I agree. I was disappointed, but I'll give someone another chance.
I don't. It's been 75 goddamn years since that night, and I have not watched a single Star Wars thing.
I
Star
see a
Wars
lot
thing
of
since.
people online who grew up in the era where their first exposure was the three prequel movies.
Mhm.
And I hear them talking about how awesome they thought they were,
I know.
and then how Star Wars went downhill after that. And I'm like
I've th-
interesting.
I've thought
Talking
that
about how
too, and
like pod racing was so cool, and I'm like, what?
it
Like
makes me wonder how bad the ones that came after that were. Are they that bad? Are they even worse, or is it just you
I
just don't
haven't
know?
watched them in so long that I can't. There was an up and down within the three movies to some extent. There was I feel like maybe the second one was like a better than I won't even go out. I won't say that 'cause already so many people will comment now angrily at us.
Yeah, we're not Star Wars nerds. We don't really
Yeah,
know.
I can't remember. But overall disappointed. There were some highlights in those prequel movies that I liked, some scenes and aesthetics, but I just
Anyway, City of Solitude. That's City of Solitude. That's the 5th underrated card from Visions, according to Jacob. Oh, I forgot to mention this legendary creature you can run it with. We were looking through all the black, blue, green legends. We didn't scroll down and have a look at your lock of Scorch Trash. Thrash.
Thrash.
Like that, I was all messed up when I was trying to pronounce this. Your lock of Scorch Thrash. Legendary creature via Shano Shaman. I haven't seen one of those yet. That's pretty cool. 4/4 vigilance. A player losing unspent mana causes that player to lose that much life. One colorless tap. Each player adds black, red, green. So I think the idea is you tap this every turn to add a black, red, green. You use it for something. And if you have City of Solitude out, your opponent can't use it for anything because they can't play any spells or abilities. So they take 3 damage from mana burn,
So this guy's a mana burn commander,
but just for
bringing
3
back mana
also.
burn, right?
But if you can untap them with like a Creon Ranger or something.
Uh-huh. I'm I like it. I'm sad that they had to like take away mana burn and then
It
make a
should still
commander to
exist.
bring back mana burn sometimes.
Mana burn should still exist. But there are lots of green decks out there that can make use of the city. Yearlock of the Scorched Thrash is probably the ideal home. Yearlock punishes player for being unable to spend their mana, and he comes with the ability to give mana to all players.
I
Yeah.
kind of like it, but it's a little janky. What I don't like is that you're hoping they can't do anything with that mana, right?
Yeah.
I know the City of Solitude helps, but I mean, yeah, I don't know.
But that's it. Yearlock's pretty cool. When we were after we spent the night in the tents. The whole parking lot was full of tents. You remember? There were people everywhere. It was packed full of tents. We all slept in the tents. We woke up the next day. Do you remember our stupid ass piece of shit assistant principal showed up
Uh-huh.
and started doing rounds through the parking lot trying to catch
Yeah.
people that were
The principal showed up
in
at the
class?
movie theater and like started walking around to look for license plates of people that were registered for with the school
Guess
parking.
what? Shitbag. Leave the nerds alone. We were all fine.
Yeah.
We were all fine
Yeah.
students.
We were
We
like
didn't do
the A
anything wrong.
students skipping school to go watch Star Wars. You're like, oh, I better bust these kids.
Ask me, Alex. Ask me if that assistant principal still works at that high school.
Does not.
I wonder, do you know why?
I do.
That's the end of episode 95 of the Old Mage MTG podcast. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed. I had a pretty fun night. I was tired. I'm now full of energy now because I'm irritated.
You've been all riled up.
I'm irritated. I'm irritated about Star Wars and how episode 1 ruined it for me and how I never watch it again. I can't do it. I know I technically I could, but I can't. I made a promise to my younger self never to watch another Star Wars property ever again for the rest of my life. I'm going to die without ever seeing another one. Even though somebody told me I should watch The Mandalorian, I said, okay, I will, but I was lying. I just wanted to end the conversation. I'm not watching The Mandalorian. Do you have anything that you want to add, Alex, before we go? Do you want to give the name of our assistant principal? I've said nothing, by the way.
I've said nothing.
I've said nothing.
I'm not blaming you.
Okay. I've said nothing that isn't true, and then also I've given no names. As a lawyer, Alex, am I in the clear?
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I'm asking for your legal opinion.
You don't want it.
Okay, that's it. Talk to you later.
I ain't gonna do this anymore. That's all for me. Goodbye.